What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Rufus. Before I get into this NFL playoff special with Chris Santos, fair warning, I did have some technical difficulties throughout getting readjusted using Zoom. I used OBS Streamlabs. I forgot to shut off my desktop audio. Or not that I forgot to shut off the desktop audio. Thought my headphones were plugged in. They weren't. So I think there's a lot of pickup in terms of what the mic's picking up and echoing from my set of speakers through my own speaker, which was also being used in the recording process. There's definitely an audio issue throughout. I have tried as hard as I possibly can.
Fucking thing sucks!
That's pitiful. I mean, it's absolutely pitiful to perform like that. Pitiful.
To make the listening and watching experience bearable. It might be better watching it. I tried to adjust the audio. You might have to listen to it at a louder level. It seem quiet. The audio is gonna be buggy. And it's annoying. I explored a lot of different options to try and get rid of it. Struggled with it. It was just kind of like, knocking off the rust. It's a stupid mistake on my end, at least to my belief. But I still want to get this video out here with me and Chris as we continue to do these specials throughout the playoffs. I think it's going to be a lot of fun with the bracketology and everything. I mean, everything's still understandable. Sometimes just the popping and the crackling might get a little annoying. Not so much as Chris's audio. Chris's audio was pretty much good the whole time. There's a little bit of a problem of mine. I don't want to put content like this out here. Don't think that I'm just sending it out there. I explored many options to try and fix this and struggled with it. So don't crush me. You don't have to let me know in the comments, hey, it doesn't sound good, whatever. I mean, I know. Trust me, I know. I'm getting it out there. I tried. And hopefully in the future I'm going to avoid this entirely. Try to explore a lot of different options to fix this, but could not. I'm going to definitely try and avoid it in the future. But like I said, you don't have to go and crush me on this or let me know or anything. Trust me, I know, and it's gonna ravage my head. And that's it. The video probably won't do as well, whatever it may be. But it needs to get out there. I need to do it. Deal with it. I want to get out in front of it. Say it here. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy it. Hopefully, I get it to the point as to where it still is enjoyable to watch. Hopefully, you enjoy the discussion between Chris and I. And let's see if you disagree with our picks, and let me know on my social medias that will all be linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's get to the NFL playoff special with Chris Santos.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Rufus Rundown. I'm joined by Chris Santos, my broadcasting partner at New Bedford Cable, longtime friend. And we're going to talk about the NFL playoffs. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing well, Lucas, and looking forward to this weekend, which 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and a Monday night special for the first time in the history of the NFL is a Monday night playoff game.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to me personally that they hadn't ever really capitalized that on before. I guess it comes down to media rights and who's buying the games and who's willing to buy them. Obviously, I believe ESPN, I'm imagining, is sticking with that Monday game, correct? Yeah, it's ABC, ESPN.
I'm pretty sure as I'll look that up real quickly, but I think you are correct on that. I thought it was a little interesting because, remember now you're playing on a Monday. That gives us, the other teams maybe an extra day of rest when it goes to the following week. So I guess I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and we'd go from there. But that's what they decided to do, so we'll see how it turns out.
But we have a couple of decent matchups. Your team's got a matchup. Unfortunately, the Rams couldn't pull it out, so my team, the Saints, couldn't sneak into the playoffs. Not that they would have made that much noise anyways, but it just would have been nice to make it in the dance considering everything they went through during the season. So we'll go through each matchup on their own, and we'll break them down. But first, I want to start off with your sleeper pick. Who do you think is the biggest underdog that has a chance to upset in this first week and maybe even upset throughout the playoffs, make a little bit of a run here as any of those wild card teams, the 5 through 7.
Yeah, and that's that's a good one. Usually the underdogs come alive on wild card weekend, not more of winning the game, but more of covering the game, obviously with the spread, and those are two different things to move on. So I think the Rams and the Arizona one is kind of an interesting matchup where I think one of those teams could maybe get on a little bit of a run, whoever comes out of that one, to make it to maybe the NFC Championship game. So I think that one's a big one right there. I know the world right now in the media, when I look it up, is everyone's on San Francisco, only getting 3 at Dallas. So my Cowboys are not getting much respect. And all the experts are taking San Fran. So if everybody's right with that, then obviously that could be one that goes on a little bit of run. And obviously I don't want that to happen. But the experts are thinking San Fran would be kind of one of the teams to go.
Historically, though, at least with me in my experience with the Cowboys and the betting scene, a lot of times if the public hammers away from them, because the Cowboys are so heavily bet considering how large their fan base is, you can understand what the bookies are willing to give up or not give up, and it tells you a lot of the tape a lot of the time. A lot of the public might hammer the Dallas Cowboys, 70% of the public's bets might come in, and the spread won't budge. And at that point, I'm gonna fade the public. I'm gonna roll with the Cowboys because obviously, if they're being that heavily bet, they're not gonna really budge on the spread that much. You like to roll with that team, and vice versa here. If it doesn't move much from 3, and the public wants to hammer, the money line for the 49ers or hammer even the spread for the 49ers. And it doesn't move much from where it opened, I believe, which was at 3. I think that tells you all you need to know, what the bookies know, what the experts and the analysts think, how much they're willing to give up, at least on that betting line from that point of analysis, what you're looking at. And I think that, personally, I still do think that the 49ers, considering the run they've come in on, have a pretty good chance, and guys like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk has come alive, George Kittle's still a very good weapon, whether he's blocking or getting out for passes, and Garoppolo's thumb really didn't look that hurt against the Rams. So that's obviously with good reason one of the favorites. But like you said, the Rams Cardinals games is really going to be whatever team gets out of there has a pretty good look at making a run to these playoffs. I mean, both of them really not coming in on the highest of highs, considering how they started off their seasons very well and have kind of just been playing, I'd say, below average ball for most of them. The Cardinals have probably looked a little bit better as opposed to the Rams, but either way, both of them kind of coming in on a low. So if they can catch some fire there in the wild card round, obviously the opportunities open up.
Yeah, and the NFC will be interesting. You got to look at experience now, Lucas, in my eyes. Sean McVay has been there before. Obviously, Arians in Tampa Bay has been there. Aaron Rodgers, of course, has been there. And so you look at Kyler Murray and even Kingsbury. This is all new to them. It's going to be difficult. Maybe even the same thing with Garoppolo and seeing how that works. So I'm hoping Mike McCarthy experience helps with him too. So kind of look at the coaching staff, look at the teams who's been there before to see if they can get that run in the NFC. And in the AFC, obviously, a lot of people on the hype are on the Bengals. But that coach hasn't been there before. Joe Burrow's young. Jamar Chase is young. They haven't been there before too. Could be that kind of nervousness, tension to kind of real. Cincinnati hasn't been here in 30 years. A lot of things going on there. So it makes that difficult. Even with Tennessee, I know they get some good players, but, really not playoff experience compared to maybe Buffalo, obviously New England, teams who have made it before, Kansas City with Reed and Mahomes. So you got to start looking at the teams who have some experience that can maybe dominate and start taking over. And you say, hey, boy, what a great coaching strategy or a good plan of attack, and realize, hey, that was the way we were supposed to play the game, and move on to the divisionals and then obviously the AFC, NFC Championship, and then try to make it to the Super Bowl. So keep that in mind as some of these teams are playing. Remember, there's a lot of young teams out there, coaches and players going into these playoffs.
Yeah, it's been mentioned a lot that a lot of the times with these teams, the NFL, one of the biggest leagues in it, each year there's about 75% turnover in terms of the playoff teams and new teams and teams that weren't there the season prior to that. So there's a lot of turnover each year, even with the expansion, even more so within, like, you know, in terms of that rule. I'm not sure if that number held up this season, but there are a good amount of new playoff teams this season. And I'm sure that the number would at least come close. And then you got to look at, like I said, experience. You really just, the only way you can just keep getting there. The experience is a huge thing. And I watched the end of that Bengals-Chiefs game with you, where Zach Taylor was trying to lose that game. He got bailed out multiple times by penalty flags, and he was practically trying to lose that game for the Bengals. I mean, I know he wasn't purposely trying to lose the game, but I mean, like, the way it looked with him continuously trying to go for it on 4th and goal, and he had a great chance to kick it. It was absolutely petrified of Patrick Mahomes. Now, of course, Derek Carr is not Patrick Mahomes, but there's still a lot of young decision-making going on there, and with all these guys. I mean, McVay, up until this year, was undefeated against Cliff Kingsbury, had a very good record against them. But the Rams are at home, and Cliff Kingsbury has, I believe, either 8-0 or 8-1. The Cardinals are this year on the road. So, you know, it's a game of numbers there that are going to meet. The Cardinals are very good on the road, but, you know, historically the Rams, at least in the McVay versus Cliff Kingsbury era, you know, have been very good. If you look at that Raiders-Bengals game again, the experience, obviously the Bengals getting the better of the Raiders earlier in the season. I believe the final score was 32-13. Derek Carr, not the best cold weather player. And then you look at a team like, again, the Patriots and Buffalo, where they split, but, you know, Buffalo kind of getting a raw deal in terms of the weather when it came around. And even though their home field advantage didn't really mean that much, they just couldn't defend the Patriots' run as well as they could run the ball themselves, because throwing the ball wasn't really an option. The weather's going to be more supportive of the Bills this time around, and New England's really coming in on a low note. They've really struggled, you know, towards the tail end of the season. I mean, 50 points against the Jaguars, I'm really not going to, I mean, outside of the Colts, I'm not really going to jump for joy over that one. I mean, they showed up to play the Colts, and they won their Super Bowl. Congratulations. But they certainly didn't show up to play New England. And New England losing to Miami, once again, they are cursed down there. They come in on one of the lower ends, is just similar to the Rams and Cardinals themselves, kind of coming in on a low. So, yeah, you know, it's the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, that's Patriots' game plan. They beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and they beat them very well. You know, and Jacksonville was one of them. Obviously, the Jets was another one. They take teams that are not good, and they don't mess around with them. They take advantage. You're right. They've had some struggles with some of more of the elite teams, the above 500 teams, as we call it. So, yeah, they need to show a little bit more coming into this one. Conditions are obviously always important in any game you play, and no more than obviously that game in Buffalo. Well, it will be probably the coldest out of all the games compared to Cincinnati and the Raiders. But you're right, Derek Carr has not been well in cold games. Even some of his former coaches have said it. He's not been very good. That's supposed to be in the 30s, maybe 20s. So it could be tough for him too. But hopefully, you know, as these teams learn and they've got to where they want to be, you got to look back at what happened during the season and take that and say, hey, we can do the same thing now. Like Arizona winning 8-1 on the road, different teams that usually play indoors, now they go outdoors and they've been able to win. You got to take all this experience, you got to put it all together now. You're in the playoffs, right where you want to be, and then lay it all out on the line. You got nothing to lose. Like Detroit playing against Green Bay last week. You know, flea flickers and double reverses and everything's all out there in the open. And then again, you got to play the 4 phases of the game, stay away from the penalties as well, and you know, manage the clock. So there's a lot going on during these one game and elimination. So everybody's got to be on their best from all the coaching staff to all the special teams, to offense, defense. You got to have it all if you want to move on.
All right, so Chris, we're gonna go. We've touched on a lot of them, a lot of the ones that we like. We think are going to be, closer or different, or ones that have more glaring weaknesses. Our favorites for the upsets, really, the 49ers being, I think, a lot of the public's favorite. But obviously that Cardinals one too, looking like Kingsbury could, kind of with that good road record, upset them there. But we'll start off. We'll go in order. Saturday at 4:30. We'll start there. We'll work our way up to Monday, kind of going through each game. Obviously, the Vegas Raiders with that walk-off kick in the game that they could have just tied and gone in, but it would have changed up the seeding entirely. They go for the win. Allegedly, Staley was called a timeout, which stopped them from, letting the Chargers in, which I don't agree with at all. But here we are. Vegas is in. Cincinnati's in. And Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase are on a pretty good run. They're rested up. They took a week off. Vegas rattled off 4 wins in a row to get into the big dance, winning some pretty much playoff games even before they were, in the playoffs. Who do you like in this one? Cincinnati, the early 5.5-point favorite as of the odds today, Saturday at 4:30. Who do you got?
Yeah, in this one, I am going to take Cincinnati, but I think this game is going to be closer than what people think. And I think the Raiders have a chance to cover here. I like them as an underdog role. But I think the weather, I think the experience favors the Raiders maybe in some ways, but I'm not stuck on Derek Carr yet. I still think he makes some mistakes when it needs to be made, and unfortunately, I think he will do it again in this one in the weather that he doesn't like. Burrow had a week to rest. Chase is a good young player. I know they're kind of rookies. Obviously, with Mixon, a young head coach as well. I think the Bengals win it, but I think it's going to be closer. Maybe a late touchdown by the Raiders, or to keep it close, or the same thing. Maybe since he wins it at the end, but I think they hang on at home and they will advance over the Raiders.
Yeah, it's going to be a cold weather, bad weather. It even could be a good amount of snow and stuff coming down in Cincinnati, which I think means you got to take the points now. When it comes down to who's going to win the game, like I said, it's going to be close. I think it might be low scoring. They're not going to be able to go through the air. So obviously, and both run games aren't exactly stellar. I mean, Josh Jacobs pretty good back, 130 yards after contact against. I mean, it's after contact. That's against the Chargers. The Chargers being one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. Mixon's pretty good. They don't have the most fantastic offensive line. I don't think either run game, truthfully, has the edge in this one. And in such a sense, I think that the Bengals just have more outright playmakers. I think Joe Burrow's better than, if not just as good as Derek Carr. I mean, if you're going to go, break even at the quarterback position, I think when you look at the receiver positions and the skill positions, Darren Waller's in his own, kind of in his own, and I think if you compared him to Tyler Boyd or even T. Higgins in the sense he's better than them. Hunter Renfrow has been pretty good out of the slot, but I think that between Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon, with Burrow, who's been on such a good run, I think it's hard to look past the Bengals now, and especially with them not playing week, being healthy. We'll see if they can pick up the momentum and get things going. But Vegas, it's a blessing and a curse to come in on one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They get up and play for that head coach for sure. Right now, we'll see if he's able to sustain the job or not. I wouldn't go that route. But I think that the Bengals are going to pull it out. I think home field advantage is going to be the whole thing in this one. This the travel and whatnot. Vegas being used to the dome teams not playing too well in the cold. I expect Max Crosby to have a big day defensively. But really, I just think that the Bengals just have too many outright playmakers for Vegas to keep up over the course of a game, especially with them being well rested and in this moment. Now, will that hold up over time and through the rest of the playoffs? To be determined, but I like the Bengals in this one as well.
I agree. The weapons, they have a little bit too much right now. As long as they have confidence in their game plan. Again, they're rookies, so they can make mistakes, but I think they'll hold on. They'll give Cincinnati something they haven't had in a long time. That's finally a playoff victory, going way back to Boomer Esiason in those days. So
31 years.
Yeah, I'm going with Cincinnati.
So the next one up on the schedule is Saturday night, which I'm sure a lot of people around here are waiting forward to, and I'll be able to clip this and put it out there on its own. A lot of people are looking for the New England-Buffalo rematch in Buffalo, single-digit temperatures, but not as much wind as that first matchup that they had earlier this season, where the wind was uncontrollable as to where they couldn't even kick field goals or really throw the ball unless the wind was at their back. The early line is the Bills -4 in the third appearance of the season in this newfound rivalry post Brady. And in hindsight, you would, in this game for me personally, with the way the season's going and the doubt of the Patriots and just the trending downwards heading into the playoffs, the Miami, if it was Tom Brady's Patriots, and this is no knock to Bill Belichick, I'm a little more fearful. A lot more fearful, actually. And it's fearful to the point as to where, like, there's no way I could pick against them. But this is not the Tom Brady Patriots. This is a rookie-led New England Patriots that have not exactly had the best run of it going into the playoffs. I'm not a big fan here. I got to take the Bills, and I would take the Bills to cover as well at -4.
Buffalo Bills is a very interesting team this year. This is a team that was supposed to be an AFC championship team by all experts at the beginning of the year. They had a lullaby here and there during the season in some games, and you scratch your head and say, how are you losing? Obviously, Jacksonville losing that game comes to mind. But in this one here, yeah, I'm taking Buffalo here. Nothing against New England. I think no rookie quarterback has really gone that far in the playoffs. I think it's going to be something where Mac Jones is going to have great experience to learn. From this one, Bill's going to give him everything they got as usual. But I think the weapons of Diggs, hopefully they'll get a running game going in these conditions as well, not just relying on Josh Allen. And let's not forget, Lucas, this defense is not that bad. They don't give up a lot of points. They really don't. They've been pretty stellar most of the year. And even when they've lost games, they haven't given up many points to the opposing team. So this is still a pretty good defense. And if Josh Allen and obviously Sean McDermott do what they're supposed to do and just worry about their game plan and not worry about what Bill Belichick's going to do and worry about trying to outcoach him, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll cover the 4, and they will move on with a pretty good win over New England in this wild card game.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Bills' defense is not being that bad. As a matter of fact, it's actually incredibly good. They've allowed the fewest yards and fewest points per game. So, I mean, pretty good. I mean, they're not great against the run, but when you have such a good quarterback in Josh Allen, and you can get out in front and you're so electric, a lot of time you'll force good teams into shootouts in which you don't really have to defend the run so consistently. And their secondary has been very good. That's even without Tre'Davious White for spots and for more recently. Like I said, this is an incredible positive for the Patriots, win or lose. I mean, Patriots fans might not see it that way considering when they had 9 wins and they were projected, not projected, but they were hopefuls for the Super Bowl. They were matching up with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and they were going to get the rematch with Tom, and Bill versus Tom, and New England back in the Super Bowl 1 year off, and they get to slay the giant of Tom Brady. Yeah, that's not exactly the planet that we're on and the existence that we are living in. But, like you said, experience for Mac Jones, a lot of those young guys, they've built up and rebuilt very quickly. Any coach or any organization that tells you it takes this many years to rebuild the offensive line or rebuild this or rebuild the quarterback situation or rebuild your receivers room, rebuild your defense, whatever it may be, I mean, it's 3 or 4 years now, and you're debating whether you have to fire the coach or pick up the option of your quarterback. It's a bunch of hogwash. Bill Belichick has collected himself, reset the cap, went 7-9 with Cam Newton at the helm, who really couldn't get the ball downfield, and rebuilt this team with a lot of free agent signings and continuing to draft well outside of the receiver room. But even Jacoby Myers has been a very solid addition to that, to that outside there. It's all valuable experience to the Patriots, and I think win or loss, this is a positive. But like we said, we'll both agree with the Bills to be covering and moving on in that one with their defense. I just think that flat out, when it comes down to these games, you need that guy, and Josh Allen in all aspects is that guy. Have they played down to competition a lot this year? I think they have. When it comes to the big games and you need a guy to make a play, Josh Allen is certainly top 5, probably even top 3 in that regard for me in terms of I want the ball in his hands with the game on the line.
Oh, absolutely, and even if you want to use his legs, which I thought they could have done in that game they lost in Buffalo in those conditions, I would have rather used his legs more than his arm. It was very difficult to throw that day, and they didn't run the ball well at all. In fact, not much that day as well. So, it would have been nice to get him 6'5", in that frame, 250 or whatever he is. Just a big guy that can really do a lot. So you want the best guy, the playmaker with the ball in his hands, and he's the guy that I think he'll have it this weekend. New England, obviously will make it tough as they normally do, but I think Buffalo pulls away with it later on.
So the next one up on the schedule is Philadelphia traveling to Tampa. Tampa Bay snatching that number 2 seed with the victory over the Panthers, and the Rams dropping that game to the 49ers. The Cowboys now slotted in at 3. But Philly travels to Tampa. The early line is 8.5. Tom Brady has not fared incredibly well against the NFC East in his career. And even Taylor Heineke taking them to a pretty good game for his first year in Tampa en route to his Super Bowl run. What do you got for Philadelphia versus Tampa Bay?
Well, I think this is a bad situation for Philadelphia. Philadelphia, in my opinion, is a run team with Jalen Hurts, with the RPO, Sanders, and like 3 other running backs that they have. I know they have Smith on the outside. If they're going to win this game, they got to do it through the air, because the run defense of Tampa Bay has been probably the top 3 all year in the NFL. They are very good up front with Ndamukong and the rest of that talented group that they have. Never mind White coming at linebacker. They will shut down that run, in my opinion, which is going to force Hurts to pass. I don't think he has it. And then Tom will be Tom as usual. Yeah, they won't have Fournette. They got Evans back, so that's good. They got Brake, obviously, at the tight end. A couple of great other weapons on the receivers. Yeah, they don't have Brown anymore and what he did, but they'll move on from that. They'll get someone else to put in his place. I think Tampa Bay goes right ahead and wins this one. Maybe not as easy as people might think it's going to be. I think Philly might hang around, maybe even cover at the end. But I think Tom and Tampa will have a good lead. And if they do cover, it'll be one of those, oh, by the way, touchdowns by Philly at the end to cover it. But I don't see Philadelphia pulling this upset. If they did, that would be a huge one, because not many are going to expect that upset here on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa gets Levante David back at linebacker as well. Tom Brady, very well known for holding grudges, and even though Nick Foles and Doug Peterson are still not in Philadelphia, I can guarantee you that he's had a picture of Nick Foles holding that Super Bowl trophy up in his ceiling for years now, and is going to take out every last ounce of that anger and frustration of that Super Bowl loss to the Eagles in this game, if he even has to, because like I said, the defense is going to do so well. Jalen Hurts, not an accurate thrower of the football, very inconsistent, very spotty. I think that what they will do is they will not really force any pressure on him. I think what they're going to do is their pass rush is going to be more set on contain, force him to throw the football, get a lead in this one, control the time of possession, and force Jalen Hurts to throw the football, which is something I don't think he wants to do. I think he wants to get out, run an RPO game. and just make plays with his legs, even if he throws off of the run. That's what he likes to do. That's what they want him to do. That's the situation they want to be in. I think they'll take away, his lead playmaker in Devontae Smith. A lot of young guys there. First-time appearances in the wild card, rookie, or even just first-time appearance in the playoffs for quarterbacks does not necessarily go well. A lot of experience on that Tampa side, a lot to play for. The man himself, Tom Brady, getting back a solid linebacker, already having a solid defense, and it just being a really bad matchup for Philadelphia. I can see the first. If you're gonna really bet it, I would bet Tampa in the first half. I think that they'll really control the first half. I would expect a third quarter cover from Philadelphia, where they might even make it seem like they're one score on a field goal away, or even get to a one-score game. But I expect Tampa to pull away in the fourth. If anything, look for that third quarter from Philadelphia out of halftime for them to kind of come out with some crazy stuff, some wild stuff. But I do expect Tampa to win and win comfortably in this one. If they recover from like a third quarter slump or even any time before halftime. There's no other way I see this one going. This Tom Brady's going to do Tom Brady's thing. Still has enough weapons between Gronk, Brate, Evans. That kid Keyshawn Vaughn has looked good out of the backfield. Ronald Jones. They have a very productive offensive line as well. And I think that the environment there is still very much a winning attitude with Tom at the helm. And a lot of that noise, the AB and stuff, I don't think will bother them, considering the leaders that they have in that locker room. So I'm going to lock in Tampa to win and cover. And we will progress on to the next matchup, which is very meaningful to you, Sunday at 4:30 on CBS and Nickelodeon. This is the Nickelodeon Playoff game, where they have the Nickelodeon most valuable player, the MVP, which Mitchell Trubisky won in a losing effort to my Saints, the first one ever. Be interested to see who wins the MVP in this one. But it's San Francisco traveling to Dallas to take on the boys. One of the most historic playoff rivalries of all time. Who do you got?
Yeah, it was an interesting matchup when it obviously came out. Didn't know who we were going to play. 17-0, they're down. They come back and beat the Rams, force themselves in that playoff, and the next thing you know, they're traveling to Dallas. So San Fran's going to be thrilled about what they're doing. Now they're going to go on the road again. That's going to be back-to-back weeks that they're going to play, obviously, on the road and try to win, obviously, to advance. For Dallas, they had it a little bit easier. Philadelphia rested some players. They went out and won the NFC East. They were in cold weather. They went, obviously, on the road to Philly and got the job done. This game is interesting for me. I think this comes down to the quarterbacks, Lucas. This comes down between what Dak can do and what Jimmy G can do. I think those are the two teams. Now, the thing about Dallas is they're going to be really, really worried about the way San Fran's strength of getting to the quarterback from the outside with Bosa and those defensive ends. They do it pretty good. So that means to me that Dallas has to run the ball. So Dak's got to be smart, maybe get some quick passes out if he's going to pass, some screens, some checkdowns, be patient to a point. Then when he feels that, hey, they're loosening up a little bit, then I can step back and go a little bit longer to get some of the big more play receivers in as well. So that's the kind of strategy that I'm looking for. On the opposite side, hey, look, I got to take Diggs. I got to put him all over Deebo Samuel. If Deebo's in the slot, I got to put Diggs in the slot. If he goes out wide, I got to go one-on-one matchup, Diggs and Samuel, wherever he goes, except if he goes in the backfield, which he has done this year. You should know, you had him in fantasy. He was a terror for you. He was a great player. He did a good job. He went against different people, and then they're like, wow, what a threat this guy is, a triple threat. So Diggs has to really play well when he goes out for passes, and then we got to make sure we spy on him when he's in the backfield. Jet sweeps, maybe sometimes he throws the ball. So we've got to take away the number one responsibility. That's him. Then obviously we look for Kittle second. Those are the top two. But if we can get some pressure, I think, Lucas, on Jimmy G, and we've seen Jimmy G in the past. He's looked great at times, and we've seen him fold under pressure. whether he was with New England or when he's been with San Fran. We've got to get some pass rush from Gregory and Lawrence on the outside. Parsons doing some damage up the middle or wherever he comes from. And hopefully we can force some turnovers, make it difficult, hostile territory, being in Dallas, and get after it. I'm going to go against the experts. I think Dallas is going to play well this week. They're home. I think they're going to take the enthusiasm of the fans, and they're going to come out. And I know everybody thinks San Fran's going to win this one. They're very excited. I think the Cowboys play okay, and they win in their home place and cover the 3.
Yeah, like I said, I like to fade the public a lot when it comes to Dallas because a lot of people will jump on against them. And like I said, the points will shift back and forth throughout the week in terms of where the public is betting. And that's what I like to analyze, especially if I were to bet the Cowboys 49ers game. Dallas has struggled against the ground game, which San Fran's been pretty successful with. Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel. It's been a thing in the NFL now too. Cordell Patterson's moved to the backfield, moved to receiver, moved to the backfield, moved to receiver. Hunter Renfrow has moved to the backfield at times in red zone situations for the Las Vegas Raiders. NFL offensive coordinators and play callers are starting to move their stud receivers so they can't get over-undered in coverage or get the press with the over-the-top coverage. The double teams. To avoid double teams, you can't double team a guy if he's lined up in the backfield. And they run those little they run the RPO to the running back, they roll it out to the receiver side, and they let their best man make a play one-on-one in a zone, which they can read very well. Receivers can just sit into a zone, find out cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, wherever they're going to go. They have option routes, and they're going to get open. Or if it's man, they have one move to make. It's going to be very difficult to double them out of there. And Shanahan has engineered so much of just getting the ball into the hands of his best guy, which is Deebo Samuel. But I don't see Elijah Mitchell really having a big day. Deebo, he can do his thing. He's going to get his. You have to limit that though. The yards, I'll give up as many yards to Deebo. Give him all the yards. You got to keep him out of the end zone. You got to prevent those big plays. You give up 4 or 5 yard chunk plays and bow your back. But you got to force Jimmy G to make plays. You cannot allow Deebo to dictate this one with big touchdown runs or big runs after the catch. The other guy you look out for is Ayuk. Ayuk has really found himself into a good role considering how well Deebo has moved all over the place. People have kind of forgotten about Brandon Ayuk, which is going to be trouble for your number 30 out there. But I would even debate. You can't because it's so difficult to double Deebo as to who you would put on him. I would even think about putting Trevon on Ayuk, and then just letting him lock up Ayuk on whatever side of the field, and a lot of heavy zone coverage and faith in that. I know it can be tough like that, but I would really take Trevon to lock up Ayuk, kind of Patriots style. Put your best corner on the second best receiver, and then put everybody else on the number 1. But then you can't forget about Kittle as well. But you got a guy Micah Parsons who flies around all over the place and will find himself in the positions to either cover Kittle, be in a zone around him, or put pressure on Jimmy G. It's going to be incredibly tough to take away Deebo. What I would really focus on doing is absolutely eliminating Brandon Ayuk and allowing the middle of the field playmakers to really worry about George Kittle. And if at any moment you can double team Deebo Samuel, you do it with everybody else. I like I said, I like to fade the public. I'm going to roll with Dallas. I think that they're going to put more guys in the box. I'm sure Jimmy's thumb still isn't 100%. I just think Dak is primed to have a big game. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. I just think they have the playmakers on the outside in this one. If it goes that way to make these plays, Dak hasn't looked as mobile. I think if there's one guy you're going to have to get the ball to that I think that can make a difference for Dallas, I would try to get the ball to Tony Pollard a lot early. I think when they get the ball to Pollard, it really gets the ball rolling for that entire backfield. When they try to, Zeke, and you get a touch to Pollard and he breaks one, I think if you find a way to get the ball into Pollard's hands, either throwing screens or two back sets early, I think you change that up, and you open up the running lanes for Zeke. If you can, I think controlling the time of possession in this one and forcing, San Fran to take shots is how you're going to win this one.
Yeah, I'd like to see McCarthy do a little bit more with Pollard if he's healthy. I don't like, Lucas, the series of what the Cowboys do. So they give a series to Zeke, and then they bring Pollard in for a series. I'd rather have them both in all series. So, for example, if it's first down Zeke, second down Zeke, and third down might be a pass, let's get Pollard in there, even if it's the first series. I'd like to see more of that from McCarthy. He doesn't do that. They go by, series, and then they keep doing it that way. So hopefully they get a little bit more. Pollard's been banged up. Clement has taken their place. He was the guy from Philadelphia who was successful with the Eagles, and he's come in and done a nice job of filling in when Pollard's out, and even some punt returns for Lamb and kickoff returns. So hopefully he will help out as well.
Yeah, obviously the injury probably factoring into, but for me, especially when you have such talented guys at a less dynamic position than receiver, where they're more defined into what they can do out of the backfield, I would rotate it as to where they're on the field at the same time. One's getting a carry on first down, then the next series, the next guy's get. I would make sure that I'm not stagnant with it. I'm not random with it in a sense. I don't you just kind of freely point and go unless I'm feeling some certain type of way if I'm McCarthy. But I think putting it into a position where teams really can't prepare for it, like, all right, first series is this guy, second series that, you can call a defense that. If they consistently come out with one or the other, you have an idea of what plays are running. It actually is more telltale to what you're doing in terms of your play calling. If you can randomize it a bit more and game plan that way differently in terms of, and I'm not saying that you can't go one series the next with another guy, but just switching it up and giving a lot of different looks, I think, and being less, you can't really prepare for that type of offense. So I'll be interested to see how it goes. Even if it is Clement in place of Pollard, I'd still like to get the ball to someone else besides Zeke in a different manner, just because Zeke's downhill inside the tackles. He's not as dynamic as he was. He's not a very agile anymore. Just kind of gets through there. I mean, it's that silent 4 or 5 yards. But I like to open it up with some different playmakers. I'd even get CeeDee Lamb into the backfield a bit if you're going to be missing Pollard, in terms of kind of a Deebo Samuel style himself, kind of steals some stuff from the 49ers there, because when Dak gets in the ball, he does a lot of good things, but in recent times it hasn't exactly gotten in the amount of touches you'd want out of a player of his caliber. I'd even try to get him in the backfield or motioning in, and find some unique ways to get guys like him and Pollard, if healthy, the football.
Keep an eye out for a guy named Cedric Wilson.
That's another guy that I've been a big fan of in the absence of Michael Gallup.
Yep.
So the next one up on the schedule, it's Pittsburgh, Kansas City Sunday night, and this is one I might if I'm feeling tired, I might take the early trip to bed before this one finishes up. Kansas City minus 12.5. They beat them 36-10, and I don't think that score really fairly represents how bad of a whooping it was on the Steelers. Of course, the Chiefs were missing Travis Kelce in that one. This one, I just don't. Mahomes would have to. The only way that I see this one staying close is if T.J. Watt rips off the edge, clocks Patrick Mahomes, and he has to exit due to injury. That is truthfully the only way that I see this one staying close.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% here. I'm even surprised that the Steelers are in the playoffs, personally. I think they've looked horrible this year. I've seen nothing from Ben Roethlisberger that shows me that he can pull this game out. Their defense has been scored upon numerous times by a lot of teams, going up and down the field, all of them. And I just think this is where Kansas City, at home, as long as Reed doesn't get carried away in some of his play calling, does what he's supposed to do, I think Kansas City tears them apart and goes right through.
Now, for Pittsburgh, I mean, like, I can see, like, they have to, like I've talked about on the podcast, the one that I released, the most recent one, Deshaun Watson making his way up there in terms of Tomlin having some pull there and him having some assets and just replacing Ben Roethlisberger. But that's not now. Right now, you have Ben Roethlisberger, and I remember seeing the highlight of them saying Ben Roethlisberger went out like a gunslinger in his last home game. It was all emotional. This is like the last time I'm going to do this. Whatever. Last time I'm going to play here. The last home game I'm going to have. I'm going out swinging. Going out like a gunslinger. And he goes 22 of 46 for 123 yards. That's not exactly what I envision when someone says gunslinger. As a matter of fact, he's that's a cap gun if he's a gunslinger right there. He's not firing off any type of real rounds. Najee Harris, solid player. Deontay Johnson, solid player. Really like the way that Najee Harris runs the ball, but they just do not have anywhere close to enough for a serviceable pass game to hang in this one. If they could even hang remotely with their pass game as to where it would complement their run game enough as to where they couldn't continuously stack the box to stop it and they could keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, I believe that there's a chance in this one at least to be close, at least for them to cover. But they don't even have enough of a serviceable pass game with Big Ben back there as to where they're going to continue to stack the box, and Ben's still not going to be able to make plays through the air. They just don't have the talent.
And I don't see anything on the other side defensively that will stop Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, whoever's in the backfield. Never mind Mahomes being able to run. I don't. That defense has shown me nothing this year. They've only seemed to have gotten worse. Their closest game was probably last week, but besides that, they scored an awful lot, and they've looked real bad this year. Tomlin's finding ways to win though for 15 years in a row, so he's got them in there. And there's always a long shot that can come out, but I don't see it happening. I think Kansas City rolls.
Yeah, make a Fitzpatrick a solid safety, but that's about all they got. And T.J. Watt too, but the problem is with T.J. Watt is that Mahomes is better, even better under pressure. Cam Hayward's pretty good. The Steelers have a decent D line and considering pass rush, but you need a boatload and host of weapons to even challenge Patrick Mahomes if you're going to rely on your defense. As a matter of fact, you just can't do it. You just cannot rely any means on your defense when going up against Patrick Mahomes. Like we said, we both agree. Chiefs win. Chiefs cover -12.5. It'll probably be closer to 14 by the time game time rolls around. Sunday night, 8:15 on NBC. So that takes us to the last game of the playoffs. It's Arizona, LA, 8:15, ABC, ESPN. The Rams -4, coming off a loss to the 49ers. Zona and the Rams splitting the regular season series 1-1. Cliff Kingsbury getting his first career win against the Sean McVay-led Rams. Matt Stafford getting his first ever home playoff start, but has not fared well in the playoffs in his career given a different organization, and has not exactly had the best run of form going into this playoff game. We've kind of addressed it earlier. What do you see in this one between these two NFC West opponents?
Well, I think this is the tightest game out of them all, Lucas, first of all. Second, remember Murray, this is his first playoff game, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's got. I really don't like the way Arizona's played down the stretch. I know they started off well, but they've really turned the page in the second half of the season. On the opposite end, the Rams did one thing, and they said they were going to do it. We're going to get rid of Goff. We're going to go out and get the guy that I want. That's Matthew Stafford. They've been rolling with him all year. McVay says, this is my guy. This is the guy that's going to lead us. And I think this is going to be Stafford who's going to take this game, and they're going to win this game. I think Aaron Donald will play well. I think they'll get after Murray, make him make some mistakes. I think Cooper Kupp, obviously a tremendous player, Triple Crown winner this year as a wide receiver. Hasn't happened only 3 times in NFL history by 3 other guys. He's going to have a good game. I think they'll run the game with a good running attack as well. Get Michelle, maybe some other guys involved too. But I think it's time right now for McVay and Stafford. And if Matthew Stafford is anything that people say that he is supposed to be, it's going to start in this game here. I think they go out, they play home. I'm not going to worry about what happened in San Francisco because, again, that's more on the defensive side. I think they'll turn that around. I think McVay's got some more experience than Kingsbury. He's kind of beat him pretty good when he's needed to. I think that will continue. I'm taking the Rams in this one and come.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Stafford, you got to thank Jared Goff beforehand went to a Super Bowl and went to a divisional playoff round for someone who's supposed to be far and away better than the option that they traded away to the Detroit Lions. He could very easily exit in this wild card round, and the seat would get very warm there. They gave up a lot for Matt Stafford, and the expectation was they were instant Super Bowl contenders, and for a while they were. But the way things have gone here, things have slowed. Stafford has not looked as much of a stud as he has at times in his career, and as more specifically as what the Rams expected him to look like consistently throughout this entire season, considering the tutelage of Sean McVay. I'm actually going to roll with the Cardinals outright here. I just think that Chandler Jones is going to have quite the day against the Rams offensive line. I think if they can get to Stafford, they're going to force some bad decisions out of him. I think Kyler Murray, I think Kingsbury is going to find a way to game plan this right for a guy like Kyler Murray, guys like Rondale Moore, and in that receiving core there. James Conner, you hope that he's healthier. Chase Edmonds has been very good down the stretch. I see the Cardinals pass rush having a pretty good day. Isaiah Simmons having a pretty good day. I expect Aaron Donald. You cannot contain him or stop him. He's gonna get his. But if that's the only guy that's gonna get penetration there, you have to shut down other guys and make sure that he is not taking away from what the rest of your offensive line can do. You know, if you're going to double team him, you better make sure you have a successful double team. And if your double teams aren't working, I would double team the next best guy in that line or the next interior defensive tackle to make sure that the only person that is causing any of that harm is Aaron Donald. You can allow Kyler to make plays from there, knowing that the pressure is going to be coming from one spot, and then go from there. I want him using his legs more than he often would. I don't want him putting himself in harm's way, but hey, it's the playoffs. You know, there's some chances that you have to take. But I see this the way that Stafford's played down the stretch. I see them put the Cardinals have played so well on the road. I can see the pass rush getting to Stafford and it being a close one, but the Rams coming out on top and I think would shock a lot more people than otherwise a lot of people would think. Everybody's expecting to be close, but I think a lot of people are still siding with the Rams. I like the Cardinals to take this one and rumble on to play the Packers in the NFC Championship. But that's every game that's going on this weekend. That's the Monday night game. That's really the only one we disagree on. I think every other pick that we ended up agreeing on, aside from the fact that you think Philly might get no by the way, might hang a little closer than expected. I think Tampa pretty much going to throttle them. And that pretty much settles the opening round there. Now, we can do a little bracketology here. We can continue through the rest of the playoffs. Like I said, we've agreed with most of these, but it would set up, like I say, bracketology here. The Titans getting the first round bye, the Packers getting the first round bye. So the next round would end up pitting the Chiefs against, and we both took the Bengals, so it'd be Chiefs, Bengals, and then it would be Bills, Titans. No, I'm sorry, it would be Titans, Bengals, and Bills, Chiefs, which is a rematch of the AFC Championship game, and then you'd have Tampa would be taking on. You'd be taking on Tampa, the Cowboys and Tampa would square off, and Arizona would square off with the Packers. Obviously, well before anything coming out here, but that's March Madness. That is the NFL playoff madness. Who do you like? Do you like the Titans or do you like the Bengals?
Well, obviously, when those matchups actually show up, you have to figure out, if anybody was injured, you have to figure out who's healthy. Is Derrick Henry going to be back? Is he ready to go? Is he the real deal, or is he going in there at 80%? There's all different things like that. And we're going by from what we've said. We think that's going to happen compared to, let's say, the Raiders happened to win the game, and now obviously it's switched all the way around. Very difficult to kind of predict in that way. If I had to do it and figure out one of those, I think Cincinnati wins one, but then I think Cincinnati loses the next one.
Yeah,
so
it's often
that's how I'm going to look at that.
That's often the theme, is that a lot of the times the underdogs, the wild card round, very exciting. But when it comes around to playing the big dogs and it rolls around in the divisional round, they tend to have more success.
Let me give you this one, Lucas. Let me give you this one, okay? Underdogs are 15-3 versus the spread since 2017, and that's pretty impressive. 4-2 last season in the first weekend of the playoffs. Home teams are 4-10 straight up in the wild card round over the last 3 years, and since 2002, quarterbacks making first career playoff start in wild card rounds are 11-31 straight up. So take a lot of that into perspective and look at the first round guys that are in there, like Mac Jones, like Jalen Hurts, like Kyler Murray,
Joe Burrow, Derek Carr as well, because Derek Carr has never played in the playoffs.
Yeah. So think about a lot of that stuff. When you look back and say, "Wow, what's been going on?" But this wild card week usually favors the underdogs a lot more, than the favorites. When we're talking point spread, we're not talking
correct. Yeah, straight up. We're talking point spread. Do you expect?
Yeah, so the underdogs is usually a pretty big, and obviously that one about the home teams, and that one about the quarterbacks being a rookie. What happens there? So very difficult to predict. But like you said, when it gets to the division rounds, usually, the hammer comes down and the strong teams show up. So it'll be interesting when they match up like that. But I think the Titans could be one that says, "Hey, Cincinnati, let's settle down. You're still young. You guys have a little bit more to go." So I think Tennessee would be okay there.
Yeah, I personally too would rock with Tennessee in a healthy Derrick Henry. It would then be Chiefs, Bills after that. Personally, I'm taking a shock with the Bills. If the Bills, I think, will handle the Patriots pretty well, and I think the Chiefs, they just, when you can take the ball to Mahomes, there's a way. At times this year, Mahomes has not looked like the Mahomes of old. Now, Josh Allen's had some pretty much the same moments as well. But when it comes to playing up to the competition, Josh Allen normally rises. I mean, they might play down, but he normally rises. The same with Pat, historically. But this year, Mahomes has not looked like the true Mahomes to me. He's probably been about 90% of the 100 that we've seen. Some of the lower numbers of his career. I think all the numbers he put up were in consideration to like the third all-time for consideration to most of his statistics. And considering the years that he's put together since he's been in the league, I think those are the lowest of the bunch, or close to it. Which is not to take away from the fact he's still been very, very good. But I would take the Bills in a shock here. For me, the Bills, they're going to get hot in these playoffs. I don't know how long they can take that. They can make that run for. But Titans and Bills in that first round for me. That would be my AFC Championship.
I don't think it would be a shock personally. I think the Bills have the better defense than Kansas City, and I think they can go into Kansas City and win that game. I really do. I think the defense can hold Mahomes, and I think that Josh Allen can, as you said, take over against that defense. I like a pretty good scoring game in that one. and Allen pulls it out down the stretch, and they can win in Kansas City.
I totally agree. I think, as I said, I can just see all it takes is one stop in that game. And if there's one team to make the stop with a better defense, I think it's the Bills. So it would be a Bills-Titans AFC Championship game. So now we will travel to the NFC, where for me it would be Packers-Cardinals, and it would be Bucks-Cowboys. For you, it would be Rams-Packers, and either way, it's good. You're drawing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tom Brady traveling down to sunny Tampa Bay to take on the defending champions.
Rematch.
So
opening game of the season, and then obviously we got to play them again in the playoffs. That would be kind of nice.
That was a hell of an entertaining game in the opening game of the season.
It really was. I'm hoping that Dallas, will learn something from that, get more guys healthy into this one, and have a different look than what they did the first time. Had a chance to win that game in week 1. They didn't pull it out, but then again, we didn't know what Dallas really had compared to what Tampa, after coming off the Super Bowl win, knowing all the players that they had back. So, yeah, I would love to see that one again. I hope it can come down to that. If it does, I like a shootout in it, and maybe we can pull that one off. Maybe Dallas can do it. I would really like to see that. On the opposite end, I've seen Green Bay at times look absolutely outstanding. And there's other times I've seen them come out and lay a big goose egg right in Lambeau Field. And I can go back to some playoffs where it looks like they're going to win, and they can't even get out of their own way and lose right in Lambeau. And I don't know, either your team or my team, the Rams or the Cardinals, I think they go into Lambeau and one of them knocks them off.
So we got the first true upset of the bracket with a 4 or 5 taking over the 1 seed there, which I guess would be comparable to like in the March Madness bracket. Would be more or less like when the 1 has to go on to play the 8 or the 9 or something like that. Maybe even like a Loyola Chicago type deal where they make that run. I think anybody who beats Green Bay is destined to go if that does happen. I think it's Green Bay's year. I don't see anybody touching Green Bay quite personally, at least not until it comes around to the Super Bowl. I would rock Tampa. I would rock Tampa and Green Bay in the NFC Championship if it came down to it. But then again, a lot of times these playoffs, when teams have played prior, they do have a different, the outcome is different in terms of the one-time matchups. It normally flips the other way. I guess it would depend on, obviously, health and whatnot. It's going to come down to, but outright, I'm rolling with Tom and Aaron in the rematch, and I'm taking Aaron in the rematch to go to the Super Bowl. I think there's just there's a certain sense for me with the Packers that I don't normally get. This is an Aaron Rodgers year, whether he walks away after it or not, whether he goes elsewhere or not. Aaron's grabbing his title this year, and if they don't do it this year, they're not going to do it at all. Devontae Adams playing at such a high level, Alan Lazard showing up and playing well. They have a legitimate running game with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and they've been progressing a lot on defense as well. I like the Packers to go all the way to the bowl, taking on Tampa Bay along the way in the NFC Championship to make their way to the Super Bowl.
I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think McVay went out and got Stafford. He went out and got Beckham. I think that defense is going to find a way to get it going, and I'm going to take a shot. They've been there. He knows how to get there, and I think they can go back and maybe make an attempt to represent the NFC. I'm going with the Rams.
And then in the AFC, I'm rolling with the Bills. I think that they learned their lessons from the matchup that actually gave Tennessee a lot of momentum to rattle off into this 1 seed, even without Derrick Henry. I believe the first game that they played without Derrick Henry was against the Bills in that victory. I'm going Bills, Packers in the Super Bowl, and I'm taking the Packers to win it all over the Bills, which would then be 5 consecutive Super Bowl appearances without a victory for the Buffalo Bills dating back to the JK days. Who would you take between Tennessee and Buffalo to contend with the Rams in the bowl, and then who's taking the whole thing?
I'm going to agree with you there. I'm going to go with Buffalo too, but I'm going to stick with the Rams in the NFC. I think the NFC's been more of a dominant league this year than the AFC. A lot of good teams representing from that side, and I think they're going to knock off Bill Nation, Josh Allen Nation, and I'm going to go with Sean McVay and the LA Rams to win the Super Bowl in a great one.
I think either way, no matter how this bracket goes, the fans are the ones that are going to win at the end of the day in terms of entertainment. I think we got a lot of, I think we do have a lot of, good teams. There's not a lot of bad quarterbacks in here either. There's a lot of talented quarterbacks outside of Big Ben and Jalen Hurts, which of course are the 7 seeds. Yeah. But they do bring some unique abilities, unique characters to the table, such as Najee Harris, Jalen Hurts' running ability, some young teams, some different guys getting experience, a healthy Derrick Henry coming back, a more rested Aaron Rodgers. And then, of course, there's a lot of opportunities for rematches and a lot of division opponents playing each other right off the rip in the first round, such as the Bills and the Pats, the Cardinals and the Rams, and you get a historic rivalry in the 49ers and Cowboys. And then you get the Bengals and Raiders, a lot of teams that hadn't been there in a while. At least the Raiders had recently, but truthfully, with Derek Carr being hurt, it just doesn't feel the same as it does this time around for Raiders Nation, and of course them being in Las Vegas as well. It bodes well for the fans in terms of, especially those from a neutral standpoint. You got the Rams, I got the Packers. Chris, I appreciate you hopping on and joining me, and I'm really excited for everybody to check this out and let us know their thoughts.
Hey, it's been a pleasure, Lucas, and obviously having me on. I love watching your show, what you're doing a great job. A young man that's trying to create his career and get it started, and I'm glad I'm a part of it, number one. Number two, obviously 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. I expect to see you at least let's have some fun watching it. Get your dad over and have some fun watching those games. Expect to see some good talent, some close ones. We could see some blowouts. But this is why they play the game. This is why it's a lot of fun. It's been 18 weeks worth, and now it comes down, obviously, to 6 games this week. Then it comes down to, obviously, the following 2 weeks after that. And the next thing you know, we're waiting for the Super Bowl. So thanks again. I hope you enjoyed this show, everybody out there. And, let Lucas know your thoughts and what you think and who you think and you're going to pick and take to represent the NFC and the AFC.
Yep, couldn't agree more, and couldn't be more thankful for you hopping on to join me. Of course, if all goes according to plan, we'll be able to hop back on after this wild card round and address who we had, look at our brackets in a sense. Even though there's less teams in March Madness bracketology, this almost feels like it's just because it's football and there's so many injuries, it's even more difficult just with 14 compared to 64 to pick it. But we'll hopefully, if all goes according to plan, we'll be able to address each week of these playoffs, some playoff specials going forward, and be able to see where it all lies at the end and what our predictions were, and if we were right at the end of the day. But again, thank you everybody for joining us for this. Stay tuned for more future episodes of the Rufus Rundown, more future appearances from the one and only Chris Santos, and the future of these playoff specials. Good luck to your teams if they're out there in the playoffs. But until next time, it's your boy Rufus, signing off.